Welcome to I Just Want to Live My Life, Don't You? And so I created this series to go over entrepreneurship, or if you were starting a business or a law firm, some of the struggles and things that you probably face that you didn't think you would. That's because we were taught a lie. And more than likely you were as well, because I know I was. But basically, we were taught a lie. As an example, we were taught that if we became really good at something or we became the best, that everything else would work out and everything else would make sense. Um, but as time has gone on, some of those struggles that you start to realize it's actually almost quite the opposite. Very rarely does somebody become really good at something and it just works out. So typically, the people who are successful aren't necessarily the ones who are the best for that job or the best at what they do, or they learned the most, or they went to the best schools, or literally they may be the most qualified. Generally, those people aren't the ones that are succeeding the most. That contradicts what I was taught for sure. So that's part of the reason why I became interested in marketing to begin with, was because these things became truth, and I start looking at that and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Typically the most qualified are the ones that struggle the most. They're the ones that they have trouble getting clients or obtaining clients or figuring out these things. And I think some of it is because we were prepared for a world that no longer exists. I mean, you used to be able to buy a house on a single person income. And now it seems like more families, both people or everyone in the household works to help pay for things. But before, you used to be able to work one income, afford a house, a 3 to 4 bedroom home, on one income. And now it's kind of like you can't even afford these luxury apartments. They cost more than that home used to. So we've got prepared for these jobs that were supposed to pay us well, or occupations, and it was like, hey, well, my dad was able to buy a house. He was just a hard worker. All you had to do is show up, work hard at the mine, and then come home, and you could buy a house and live your life. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Usually it takes a couple incomes. In my scenario, I'm the breadwinner. I'm the main provider. I'm the main soul. So realistically, I can afford to pay the bills on my single income, but it's still not as much as I'd like it to be, obviously. And I always am making more each year and coming up with more ways to turn my ideas into money. But more importantly, I want to help people. And that's kind of why I created this, to discuss these problems that I didn't foresee them being a problem. And I'm sure many of you didn't either. So let's talk about them and talk about ways on how you can avoid these problems. So generally, those who are qualified or higher educated people, we like to believe that basically, because we are intelligent and we work harder and we do these things so that we can succeed, that surely we can figure out this small dilemma of whatever's happening, because so and so down the street, I know he isn't very qualified and he's doing really well, right? He's doing really well. But you know that you're smarter than him. You know you can do a better job than him. In fact, you probably even charge less than him. And that's the silly part. When most of this comes into play and you start to figure this out, you realize that it has nothing to do with you being the most qualified or the best. It has to do with those who have the best marketing. Let's just be real. Marketing is a core thing to your business or law firm. You are learning to basically, how can I take this role? And most of the time, more intelligent people take on the roles. But now you're working. Now you have two careers, because you have to take care of your business or your law firm, and now you are also the head marketing manager or whatever that position is. And figuring those things out can be difficult, because you may be intelligent or highly intelligent, but you know nothing about marketing. And so that can make it difficult. And so basically things have been changing. On top of these regular struggles, now we have AI in the mix. The algorithms are changing. Marketers are changing. You see marketers, they're coming in and they're like, AEO and using these AI optimization and talking about how search is obsolete and websites no longer matter, and you just get all this contradictory information. So my advice is find somebody who's knowledgeable that can show you a clear guide or way that you can get out of your slump or whatever you're doing, kind of show you a guideline, somebody that you trust, somebody that's proven they know what they're talking about. And even if you only use them as a consultant, you're going to go a lot farther than just going off of your own experience. I mean, you can leverage AI and things as well, but the AI is only as good as what it has in front of it or the person operating it. As an example, if I was using AI to repair an airplane engine, I would probably not know the questions to ask or what even that entails. So I would have no idea. I'm completely relying on AI. That's where people make mistakes, thinking that AI, yes, it has all the information, but the person operating it has that influence. So when we go in and we're operating AI, somebody who knows how to do something, they can ask specific questions that the AI will research and then answer. But if you don't have that specific question and you ask it how to do a specific task, it's going to be pretty vague. And then as you're going along, it'll even contradict itself and have issues. We all have experienced this. I'm sure anybody who's used, ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever you're using, DeepSeek, doesn't matter. Perplexity, there's a million of them. But the point being is, whatever one you're using, you have probably experienced what I'm talking about. So, like I said, most people, that is the struggle, is the marketing. Well, what did you do for marketing? A lot of businesses, I see them struggle, or even in my local area, they'll post on like a classified or a group on Facebook, or you'll see an ad on Facebook or an ad on Google, like a Google ad for it or whatever. They're going out of business and they're having a clearance or a sell. You'll see the people out there with the signs. And a lot of the times, not a lot of the times, but some of the times I know these people, or I've talked to these people or know who they are. And a lot of times you'll start having a conversation with them talking about, well, what did you do for marketing? And it's like, well, we were told that if we provided something spectacular, and let's say it's a restaurant, and so we figured that it's so wonderful and everyone who eats here keeps coming back. We figured we'd be okay because word of mouth, it travels, it spreads, and that's kind of the lie that we were sold. And don't get me wrong, those things are important. Those are core marketing principles. You should be the best at something, and you should definitely try to get a good review, try to provide great customer service, and these things. These are all important, but if you're not actively doing anything in terms of marketing, the majority of business will fail. They just will. And especially not having a website in this time and age, we're almost to the age where people are skipping out on websites, going to apps. But I could see there's caveats with that too and different things. But the point is that you didn't think that you were going to have to wake up and take on a marketing role. You didn't think that you would have to basically learn about finances, learn about all these different things of running a business. So I personally thought that if I was going to run a business, that it'd be like, oh, I get to pick my time, I get to pick how long I work, I get to pick my days. It's going to be wonderful not having to work, 60 hours a week and do these things at this regular job. Because, obviously when you're not making a ton an hour, you work overtime, you're doing what you can to survive. Probably part of the reason a lot of you are even looking into starting a business. I know that's part of the reason I did. And the hours are true to a degree. You can choose your own hours. But that doesn't mean that, a lot of the times I end up working late at night. Even now, well into my career, sometimes I still have to work hard more than I would for a regular company, for sure. If it wasn't for myself, I would probably not choose to do it. But it's not going to be easier. It's going to be harder, especially in the beginning. And figuring out a marketing plan and finding people who aren't trying to rip you off, because there's going to be and not all of them are rip-offs. I shouldn't say that. So not all of them are rip-offs, but as soon as you decide to go to create a business or to create your own law firm, Soon as that happens, it's like the sharks come out. All the sharks start showing up. They're circling. It's like, oh, you need a business license? We'll help you get a business license for $999 or whatever. Like they just come out of the woodworks. You get all these people selling you things. Some things you may need, some things you may not. Generally, though, these people are it's just as hard to give them the information as it is to give the government to get a business license or whatever. A lot of the times, it's almost the same amount of work, except they mark it up a lot and then they take a cut and then they just pay the fee. Sometimes they make you pay the fee on top of it, so you're still filling it out. So you got to be careful. There's a lot of companies out there that try to take advantage. The same thing with websites, the same thing with hosting, the same thing with there's so many things that they're just going to nickel and dime you to death, and you don't know what to do. You don't know what is necessary, what is needed, and even if you do and you hire the right people and you got your accountant and you do all these things, there are still things out there that you may need in marketing wise that you wouldn't know to acquire or purchase or use. And so some of that knowledge is understanding, what do I need to use to accomplish this? What tools should I be using to track my results? What tools should I be using to help automate some of these tasks? That's where a lot of things are going now, is a lot of people are automating some of these things. And that's okay, as long as it's doing a good job. Relying on everything on AI and automation, I'm personally against, because to me, I think as people, we make connections, and we need to, it's like fine art. There's things that are hundreds of years old. We still recognize that as a masterpiece. And I don't think, I think we're watching things degrade in real time. Some information's already becoming lost. We don't know things from truth or fiction. AI hallucinates and makes things up. There's just a lot of problems with it in different ways. But when in the right hands and used correctly, it's awesome. It's fantastic. Hands down, fantastic. Anybody who's used it and had a specific task that they were trying to do and they had knowledge of that task, boom, you just increase productivity by 5-10 times easy. So in that aspect, it's wonderful. But basically, that's where the trouble is. You don't know where to begin. You don't know what you're doing. You need a website. Yes, you need a website. Do you need an app? Maybe, depending on what kind of business you are. What are you going to do for marketing? Are you going to run ads? Are you going to do radio? Are you going to do billboard? And if you are, do you know why you're doing it? Like, as an example, billboards. Billboards can be great for branding, but if you expect, especially some types of businesses, depending on what you have, will depend on whether a billboard is going to work for what you want. I've had people, as an example, I've seen people in groups being like, I just opened a laundromat. I was thinking of opening up a billboard. Do you think that'll get me, 400 more customers in a month? And the realistic answer is no. Most of the time, billboards do not produce a lot of jobs and a lot of results. Generally, you're building a brand. If you watch, you'll see the type of businesses that acquire billboards. Generally, they're law firms, because the law firms generally understand how branding works, because a lot of them start out doing a lot of word of mouth marketing and supporting and doing things because I believe when they're in school that's something they're probably taught, I'm guessing. Or maybe I just work with a lot of law firms that are that way, and that's how they started out. Maybe that's just the case, and I'm just jumping the gun. But most lawyers, or attorneys, I should say, that I've spoken with and worked with, generally they started out similarly of getting involved in the community, word of mouth, these chambers and these different things, getting listed in them and attending these basically like BNIs. All great things, by the way. It is important to establish these things, and these things will help you rank online, by the way, depending, obviously. But a lot of them will list your website. A lot of them will mention you. A lot of them have their own socials and things. So by attending and being part of these things, you're being part of the community. Actually won't just reward you by word of mouth and offline. A lot of the times, those same things create authority and things that will help you show up online. And so basically, like I said, that's why I want to help people. I want to explain some of these things explain what tools you can use. Even if you're not going to do the marketing yourself, learning the bare basics should be important to you. You should definitely know how to track results. You should definitely know how to read Search Console. You should definitely know how to use analytics. I would even throw Microsoft Clarity in there. Because there are things that you need to know, and it's in stages. So you kind of have your ranking stage or showing up stage. You want to show up. Then once you get them to show up, you got to start thinking about click-through rates. You want to increase, you want to get more people to click on it, So if you can tighten up that title or whatever that draws them in to click here, then you're going to get a higher click-through rate. Now the people who are clicking through, are they actually hiring you? Now you got to go, well, conversion matters. Well, that's where, each one of these, a different tool is going to be better at identifying these things. As an example, Microsoft Clarity, you would be able to see the conversion problems. As an example, you could maybe somebody's clicking on something thinking that thing is a button, and they're clicking it and they think it's broken, and now you're looking at Clarity and it's like, oh, 78% of visitors are clicking right here. Nothing's happening, and then they're leaving. Well, that's a problem. Now we can fix it. So every tool and every process will stack up and make sense at some point. And everybody's in a different stage or of that time. So some people are building. Some people are like, hey, I haven't been able to get anybody even to click to the website. I've gotten 0 phone calls. So it's kind of like that's where you go in broad. You go through, you fix the website, you get everything as much as, make sure your structure is good, check your on-page optimizations, and then you check your rankings or where you show up. I like to use show up now because you do have AI. So checking all of these things and those answers, now it's like, okay, well, if we're doing well here on this page, but this page we're not. Or maybe we don't even have all the structure of the pages you need. Or maybe it's an authority issue. So that's kind of where when you hire a professional, it changes the game because you have somebody who knows what they're looking for. So it's like, hey, you should be using your budget here, not broad on over across everything. Because you don't really know where most of the time you're just learning. So you don't know what you really need as to where a professional could be able to go in and identify these things. Just like if I was to hire a lawyer, yeah, with AI, I probably could draft and do some things. But if a situation arose in court on the spot or something, I'm not going to know what I'm doing. I'm not. So that's kind of where the difference of the two comes in. Yes, AI is a wonderful tool in the right hands and can be used in those things. But yeah, we were sold on a lie. We were sold that if we became the best, people would recommend us and people would just show up, line up out the doors, and we would never have to worry about that. But the truth couldn't be more, the opposite. Like, it just is the opposite. It's the people who naturally are good on camera, those who can get on social, those who either that or they right out the door hired a great marketing agency. They understood it, so maybe they got a background in it. Maybe they did some business management classes. Maybe they, whatever the reason may be. But there are people that just start out better. Like I've had attorneys hire me that they laid the foundation. They were doing well. They could have kept doing it, but the problem is it's taking up a lot of their time, and they would rather focus that on cases because that's what they went to school for. And it makes more sense to bring somebody in, and they know enough that they know whoever they're interviewing is either basically fluff and making things up, or they know what they're talking about. So, as I said, I'm learning this. I'm trying to stay on point. And I'm also an on-the-fly kind of guy, so I don't just sit here and I'm not reading off of a script. But I do have kind of some outlines that I've printed out. Yes, I'm old. And so just kind of like going over these, and I really didn't really look at these very much, so I want to make sure that I covered everything. But yeah, that's kind of the process of this episode, was just to kind of go over, we were taught a lie, and we have to readjust for this new world because the old one doesn't exist anymore, to where we could just get a job and be like, oh, we can pay and live. No, you have to get something good, better paying. You have to have some kind of career or some kind of system. Even as an entrepreneur and doing this for 15 plus years, I have had to pivot many times to make more, because you cap out doing certain things. That changes. That's no longer, as an example, a few years ago, people made pretty good money being content writers, but now with AI, that's pretty much gone. There are still some good writers out there, and if you can hire one, man, in a heartbeat, I'd hire a great writer, hands down. But the problem is most of the good ones are stable. They're not going anywhere. They have somebody paying them well. They've consistently paid them well every day, and they're in the comfort zone. They're good to be there. They're probably not leaving. But most of everybody who pretended to be content writers got replaced with AI because AI is better than them. And that's just the truth. And so that could happen to a lot of things, and it has happened. And so you got to be, when you're an entrepreneur, you got to be ready to pivot, be able to do these different things. I've consistently done SEO, and later on I added website design, and then we started doing automations, and then we started to slowly integrate in and add ads into the equation. We do a lot of graphic design as well, but the main things have stayed our core principles is SEO, because that's the core, and website design and marketing. Those are our core products or services, because they just make sense in every aspect. Even as AI comes into the game, I consider that search engine optimization, because you're searching on AI for something. So you're searching. It's a search engine, because now it's become that, to search and recommend. And so it's an algorithm. It's still very similar, still the same processes. Not all. There are better things that you can do to rank better for AI, just like there's things you can do to rank better locally in maps versus organic versus YouTube versus every one of them has different algorithms. But the point is it's normal that you feel overwhelmed. It's normal that you feel that, well, I don't know why I'm not succeeding, because everyone said if I did this, that it would just work out. So you got to figure out marketing. And I've done a lot of rambling. I'm trying my best. I have ADHD. I try to stay on topic. I imagine as time goes on, I will get better at this. I also like to laugh a lot, and that can make it sound like I'm mocking some traumas and things, and I don't want people to feel that way. But a lot of times when I'm with somebody else, I'm usually laughing, and we're kind of having a good time, because that's just who I am. So hopefully I can get over this being weird and abnormal to me, and help you be better, be better at marketing, help you at least understand, so that you can make sure you hire somebody that's a true professional, or somebody that's going to help you at the end of the day. And that's not me trying to get you to hire me. Don't mistake that by any way or mean. I simply want to give you the information. And if you want, you will walk away with being able to do most of these things on your own. And once you understand it and you do it, you would be able to do this. I don't recommend that for most people. I recommend learning as much as you can, because you probably got into this business to do whatever it is you do. If you're a law firm, you did it because you wanted to be an attorney. I got into this business because I enjoy marketing. So as an example, I probably am better off hiring somebody to work on my electrical or whatever. I'm better off hiring somebody to work on my car and things but sometimes I still work on my cars. My dad was a mechanic, and in some weird way, it makes it feel like I'm closer to him. But so that's kind of a bad example. But anyway, or mowing your lawn, your time's better spent on other things. So a lot of the times once you get to a certain point, it's good to hire somebody to speed up things, to make sure things are being done right, make sure you're not losing money because you don't have enough call to actions, or you didn't have a button there so people can call in mobile, or you didn't even realize that you didn't have an About Us page, So that's what I have for this episode. I hate this part. I don't even think I should say anything, but if you like it and you want to know something specific, hit a comment, like, subscribe. I really want to make this work. I really want to make helping others a part of my life, and getting on camera is one of my fears. I'm facing this fear. Here we are. I'm going to keep on doing it. See you on the next episode. Take care.